We've spent a couple years in and around this region, and we've never once been able to catch a lobster. We've tried a couple different techniques in a few different places that we thought they might be, with no luck. The funny thing is we know they're around. The locals have popped up every now and then with a bucket of lobsters for sale, but we wanted to be able to catch our own. We're off spearfishing in the past, Melissa and I, and when we came up, we looked over and it was our friend Kyle, and he was there with his brother and his dad.
We had asked him about lobster hunting, and he told us he had just been hunting the night before and offered to take us with him.
He was actually pretty excited to take us out, so we thought, he's got the spot, let's catch up and go on a hunt.
It was really fun showing up to the beach that night to meet up with Carl. He had a really awesome outfit.
He's got his jelly slippers and, a kerosene lantern and a big backpack with a plastic bucket on the back, and he's ready to go.
He led us down a trail out to the reef.
The idea is that we're going to be working the intertidal zones for lobster that are coming up to feed at night. Carl is a pro. He's just darting left and right and left and right up and down the reef. And he got a nice take. It was slow going, I think, for Melissa and I to adapt. We each grabbed one, but both of them were short and one with eggs anyway. So for us, it's good to get the feel for it and to investigate and take a look, but we decided to let those guys go. The locals fish this way for a couple reasons, as far as I know. Number one, there's a lot of sharks in the area. Typically, they're more active at night. And number two, I think it takes a little bit more resources to be able to have the boat out there. And even if they were diving, they'd be diving very close to that edge on the reef. And it's not an easy place to have a boat and still be diving. You'd have to have probably a bigger crew. They can go out and do this on their own. We gave him what we had on our wind forecast, and he kind of clued us into the spot that after a little bit of translation kind of came out as the big Lobster Motu. So he gave us a good direction down there and said that's where we could have some happy hunting.
Since we didn't really know the zone and it's not charted, I decided to launch the drone so we could get a better lay of the land.
We got an aerial view of the zone, and we're able to kind of game plan, kind of pick and choose where we might think that we would want to be going on our hunt. And it's a perspective you can't get when you're down here because there's no topography. The coconuts are the tallest things, and we're not going to climb a coconut tree.
Looking at the drone footage and trying to determine the best path to get out to the reef, we knew it would be tricky to stay in deep enough zones to get the dinghy through. So we decided that we should go out there with the dinghy in the daytime and take our iPad with the Navionics app so that we could create a track that we'd be able to follow later in the evening.
The idea was to get out to the reef at the right tide, the proper tide that we were hoping for, and that was hunting between like 2 a.m. and the sunrise.
I have to be navigating, just short movements left and right to dodge the coral heads. It was really nice having the Navionics app just to figure out which way the boat was facing. So it was definitely a mission to get out there.
Once we were there, it was kind of what we were hoping for. It was nice conditions, and we were able to locate some areas that we'd seen during the daytime that just looked like they'd be prime. If we are scanning a reef, what you're really hoping to see is that reflection that comes from their eyes of that light shining. And then you kind of decide how you're going to approach.
Ooh, oh, it's fish. I thought I saw glowing eyes, but it was red snapper.
The tide was a little higher than we expected, so the waves were washing further over the reef. And I think also with the wind coming in a certain direction, it makes it tricky to see through the surface of the water.
I got one on the move. This one won't hold still.
I had a little difficulty trying to pin down the lobsters.
I lost him.
I'm so used to being underwater and spotting these guys, and you can take a breath and you can get your light on them. But in the tidal zone, that was pretty pretty challenging. It was different. And I think there was a lot of misses that wouldn't have happened if we were underwater, and a lot of new kind of tactic that had to be incorporated so that we could have a better chance.
Got one.
Nice.
What do you think? Good enough? In the States, you measure them from here to here. Between their horns to there is supposed to be 3.5 inches. Maybe we're getting into a zone.
I don't really have like clear vision of him. Am I close?
Go, go, go!
Oh shit.
I was a little bummed that I couldn't personally pin down a lobster that night, but having Scotty with me was the best. So once I chased a lobster in a certain direction, I knew I could kind of corral it towards him and he'd be my backup.
Just got a big bug.
We found a bunch of lobsters that night, but wanted to leave the smaller lobsters behind and the females that had eggs.
I think there's a little bit of a responsibility when you're deciding what you're going to take. Number one, look at the size, but number two, you're going to look at the sex, and if it's a female, typically in this time of year, they're going to be carrying eggs, and that's just 100% back in the water. You know, some people get disappointed, and they're like, oh man, we just had to give back so many, but it's really encouraging. It's a great indicator, it's a great barometer for the future of the fishery when you see all those female carrying eggs. So the excitement of putting those back and keep the population moving forward, it's just as good as having one that you're going to take home and eat.
We ended up catching 3 lobster that night that we took home, which is plenty for us.
We hunted right until the first light, and then at that point everything's retreating back into the ocean, but it was just an epic place to watch the sunrise.
Anytime that we can catch or collect our own food is really amazing for us. I think that's one of the reasons that we're out here. You know, it's exciting to be able to live off the sea and live off the land, and to be able to add one more menu item down here in the South Pacific is really nice for us.
Let us go, let us find a piece of our mind.
There's one tiny little motu that we've deemed kite camp. Our friend Adrian has set up a couple little tents and has pretty much set up a kite school here. He's a really energetic, very motivated individual. Kiting is a new sport that I've picked up recently. I've been wanting to learn for a long time, so it's really nice to add it into our repertoire of fun things to do on board.